When I first joined the server, I was greeted with a custom menu for the starter Pokemon. I checked out the custom starter section and was impressed by the wide variety of Pokemon that were there. There were some of my favorite Pokemon throughout the games. But I had to stay faithful to the best Pokemon in the game, Mudkip. So I picked that one before heading out on my adventure. Right after joining, I made sure to vote for the server, as I was told that was a great way to get started. I made sure to vote on all 5 sites, and then opened the vote crates and got some items that would definitely help me on my adventure. After opening the crates, I stored them in my vault for safekeeping so that I could use these items later on. Before I left spawn, I remembered that this server had quests, so I decided to check them out. The daily quests and community quests really caught my interest, so I knew that I wanted to complete them as they progressed throughout the game. After checking them out, I immediately made my way to the route so I could begin my journey. Now that I was finally at the route, I approached a trainer and began my first ever battle on the server. It took a bit of time, but my Mudkip was able to pull out a pretty easy win over this trainer, and ended up leveling a couple of times throughout the battle. After defeating this trainer, I made my way over to the healer so that I was ready to fight again. I then started to defeat all the trainers that stood in my way, because I'm the main character of this story, and through the power of plot armor, it's physically impossible for me to lose to them. If any of you would like to become your own main character in your Pokemon journey, you can feel free to join the server at play.happycloudmc.com. A tutorial for how to join is in the description below, so click that if you're having any problems joining. After battling a few of the trainers, I decided that it was time I catch my first Pokemon in order to help me with the route. I ended up finding a Deerling nearby, and it looked really cute, so I decided that I would catch it. The Deerling really enjoyed my balls, so we quickly became friends and I added it to my party. After defeating a lot of trainers, my Mudkip finally evolved into Marshtomp. This was quite an epic view to behold, as he ran away from me so I couldn't really see it whatsoever. I still thought it was nice to watch my starter finally evolve into a middle evolution Pokemon. It also finally learned a ground move, which would definitely help me out later in the run. After evolving him, I threw him out so I could get a good view of him. It was at that point I realized I had never actually named my starter Pokemon. I decided to name him Splashy, because mentally, I'm still a child and that's the best name I could think of. After a long couple days of battling, I finally made my way into the first town. I visited the Pokesnare to make sure I was healed, and then decided to take on the gym. The gym had this really cool maze that actually reminded me of the Pokemon games, and although it took me a while and I got lost a bit, I did actually manage to find my way through and face the first gym leader, Shakira. The fight started out with a really great matchup for me, and I was able to quickly defeat Shakira's Staravia. After this, however, my Marshtomp was quickly taken out by her Kangaskhan. At this point, I was sure that the battle was over. But I sent out Deerling and I saw that it had Jump Kick. This move is super effective against the gym leader's entire team. So I just kept clicking it and smacking every single Pokemon until I won. After defeating my first gym leader, I made my way out, healed my Pokemon, and decided to RTP so that I could find a base of my own. I explored for a few days, finding many biomes and many people's bases along the way. But I finally found a place on the edge of an ocean and a forest, and upon looking out into the ocean, immediately knew that this is where I wanted to build my base. After settling on a base location, I realized that I was going to need resources in order to build my base. So I began mining all the way to the bottom of the world so I could get some resources and start a mine for myself. This actually did take a lot longer than I thought it would. Speaking of wood, I realized that I would also need to cut down some trees to both make way for my base and get enough resources to build things. So I began chopping down an entire forest to make way for myself. After I was done being the main cause of deforestation in my area, I decided to build the Minecraft essentials: a crafting table, 2 chests, and a furnace. After that, I began the boring process of turning wood into charcoal, as I would need it for torches because the mine would be too dark to see in. Afterwards, I made my way down and ran into a Bunnelby who was an absolute hater that just did not want to get inside my balls, so I decided to engage him in a battle to assert dominance, after which he quickly learned that I was just better than him and decided to come with me. I kept mining and eventually found my way into a cave, where I saw diamonds glowing in the background. I wound up finding 2 separate patches of diamonds, which was pretty nice considering I hadn't even mined that much. After mining, I made my way back up to base and decided to claim 2 Pokeloots that I saw in my footage from earlier, so the comment section couldn't yell at me for being an idiot. I knew I wanted to make my own Pokeball farm, but I didn't have any apricorns, so I ran the command kit apricorn and began clearing out a large space behind my base where I could plant all of the apricorns for my farm. I know some Pokeballs are definitely better than others, but I planted a row of each apricorn just to be safe. After exploring around my base for a bit, I realized that I never actually claimed my base, so I made sure to do that using the golden shovel that I had gotten from my starting kit. I decided I would start farming wild Pokemon in order to level up a bit, and defeated my very first wild Pokemon, after which I received a normal shard. Shards allow you to choose any Pokemon you want once you get enough shards. I was definitely going to start collecting shards for in the future when I wanted to get my own Pokemon. Since I was already going to be exploring the wild and defeating some Pokemon, I figured that this would be the perfect time for me to start a Pokehunt. There are easy, medium, hard, and epic Pokehunts. I, of course, picked the hardest one because I'm just built a little different. My Pokehunt told me I needed to find a small female Babarrel with the ability Simple so that I could claim my reward. After defeating some more Pokemon around my base, I figured I'd try my luck at the route again. So I went through the Warps menu and made my way back there. I was quickly stopped in my tracks by the world's strongest Breloom, who beat me so badly that I started crying IRL for about 45 minutes. After I got done drying my tears, I went ahead and warped to the safari so I could try to find Pokemon that would help my team, and also collect some shards. I walked around the safari for a bit, exploring all the different biomes that were there. After spending a bit of time looking around the safari and beating things in order to get their shards, I actually stopped to take a look for Pokemon for my team. I didn't really have any plan for my team going into this, as I enjoyed keeping it spontaneous rather than planning everything out. So, after a bit of searching around, I happened to find a Baneri, which I definitely wanted for my team. I captured the Baneri after a pretty short battle, and then carried on beating Pokemon in various biomes while looking for the next addition to my team. After searching around a bit more, I managed to find an Abra and capture it before it escaped like it did in the games. Although the Abra didn't really have good stats, I still wanted it for my team. So I continued defeating Pokemon around me until it leveled up into a Kadabra. I was so happy that a Pokemon finally let me witness its evolution, and right after that, I decided that I would use my Trade Sim command that I get from being a donator to evolve the Kadabra into an Alakazam. Now this would be something that could really be a contender on my team. Shortly after, I made my way up to the Extreme Hills biome in an attempt to see what Pokemon were up there. I engaged a few Pokemon in battle, and when I was in battle with the Starly, I happened to notice a red head sticking out from above some stones. I quickly defeated the Starly and went to check out what Pokemon it was. I found out that it was a Charmeleon, which is something that I really wanted to have on my team, since I really loved it during the Pokemon games. After a probably 10-minute battle that also involved me getting a waiting glitch and having to redo it all, I finally managed to get the Charmeleon on my team. After catching the Charmander, I made my way back to my base, because I was finally ready to start building my first house. I immediately collected the materials for my furnaces, and then began crafting them into stone bricks. I realized that I would not have enough materials to build my entire house, so I ended up going into the shop, finding stone bricks in there in the block section, and purchasing enough so that I could actually build the entire house. I definitely bought way too many stone bricks, but you know what, I don't really care. Stone bricks are pretty, and I'll probably end up using them at a different project later on. I began terraforming the land around my base so it could be flat enough for me to build a house. I know I suck at building, so it wouldn't be any fun to watch me build this entire thing. So, I'm just gonna go ahead and do you a favor and skip to the part where you get to see the hideous excuse for a house that I built. After spending way too much time building the house, I finally managed to complete it. Here it is in all its hideous glory. It's not really pretty, but at the end of the day, it's going to get the job done. After building my house, I decided it was time to head back to the route and avenge my loss. I easily defeated the trainer who had beat me so easily earlier, and I made my way along the route. After defeating a few trainers, I managed to complete a daily quest and got some much needed money and items to help me with my journey. After defeating a few more trainers, my Charmeleon started finally evolving into Charizard, and staying true to the theme of the video, I could not see what was happening whatsoever. I got to stare at Charmeleon's feet for a good 20 seconds while it went and became the magnificent Charizard that you will soon see. On top of that, it did finally learn Air Slash, which would make it so I could replace the useless Smokescreen move that it had. Quickly after evolving Charmeleon into Charizard, Splashy followed suit. And once again, I got to stare at the feet the entire evolution process. But I was finally happy that I got my favorite Pokemon from Gen 3 in Swampert. That Pokemon really helped carry me through the games. After clearing that part of the route, I finally made my way to the second town, where, with the power of magic, aka me AFKing, it became day, and I could see this beautiful city in all its glory. I quickly made my way over to the gym and began battling Desiree. This was a pretty quick battle for me, as Charizard one-shot basically every Pokemon on the team, so the battle kind of lasted, I don't know, 30 seconds, but I was told that this gym will be harder in the future, so be careful for that. After beating the second gym leader, I collected my second badge on the route, which meant I was halfway done with the goal for the route of this video. As soon as I made my way back home, a Xerneas spawned. I checked around to see if it was on me, but noticed I didn't get a message in chat, so, sadly, it spawned on someone else. A few days later, I happened to see something glowing in the depths of the water. It was really dark and it was hard to see, but I eventually realized that it was a boss Gyarados. I thought that I could have my way with this Gyarados and show it who's boss. It did in fact sweep my entire team with little to no effort. I was a little upset, but that just made me want to train harder so I could come back and beat bosses later on. Disappointed with my loss, I figured it was time for me to start trying to catch my first legendary. So I went on GTS and I bought an orb. Orbs, when combined with a stone, can help you summon the legendary bird trio. I wanted to summon Articuno, so I went ahead and bought an ice stone. I combined my orb with an ice stone to make the orb of frozen souls, and quickly made my way to the wild where I could defeat Pokemon to fill the orb. Right after RTPing, I was greeted by a boss Choodle. This was not a Mega Gyarados, so I actually had a chance of defeating it, and I did so rather easily. The rewards weren't that great, but I still did defeat my first boss. While I was defeating Pokemon, I realized this was the perfect time for me to restart my Pokehunt, as the last one I did had expired. I bought the Pokehunt and realized that the Pokemon I got was Gulpin. I had absolutely no clue where that spawned or when, so I used the /wiki command to check both the biome and time it spawned in. After doing that, I went to see if there were any swamps near me so I could go and catch one while defeating Pokemon. After searching for a few days, I finally stumbled upon a swamp. I had to swim for a while to find anywhere that I could actually use to farm Pokemon, but after a little bit, I got there and began farming. Not too long after, I managed to find a Gulpin, but unfortunately, it did not have the right stats that I needed, so I was going to need to keep looking. I ended up spending quite a bit of time farming Pokemon in this area in an attempt to fill my orb. And all the time I was doing this, I was also collecting shards so I could get a Pokemon later on. I went through quite a few Gulpins during this trip, but none seemed to be the right stats that I needed. After wandering around for what felt like an excruciating amount of time, I happened to find another Gulpin, and I could just feel that it was the one. So I threw my Ultra Ball at it and I hoped. And lo and behold, I was correct. I finally completed my Pokehunt. I also only needed one more kill on my orb in order to complete it. So I defeated a Skuntank, completed my orb, and got a Gulpin for my Pokehunt in the same 5 minutes. My Poggers was really getting championed right now. I quickly bought a Master Ball of GTS and made my way over to the shrines where I could catch my first legendary Pokemon. I immediately went and used my Frozen Orb at the shrine and summoned Articuno. I then went and used the Master Ball that I had just bought from GTS to capture the Articuno, as I didn't want to risk it damaging itself in the fight and potentially dying. The Articuno had some great stats, which was good for me because I really wanted it on my team. So I made my way home, did /PC, and replaced the Deerling that carried me all the way through the first gym. After catching my Articuno, I figured now was a perfect time to go look into the shards. Since I had been in the swamp and defeated a bunch of Pokemon, I would have a lot of bug and poison shards. Now, I couldn't really get the Pokemon I wanted with just these shards, but I could convert them into whatever shard type I wanted by paying a 2-to-1 conversion fee. I converted all of my bug and poison shards into dragon shards and flying shards, so that I could finally get one of my favorite Generation 1 Pokemon. After buying Dragonite, I ended up needing to replace the Bunnelby on my party, which was fine because I hadn't really done much with him anyway. I ended up checking the Dragonite stats, and they turned out to be pretty nice. With the final 6 members of my team, I decided it was time to head on over to the EV Center and begin EV training my Pokemon. Before I could do that though, I needed to get rid of the current EVs on my Pokemon, so I bought some EV reducing berries from the shop, and use them to reduce the EVs of all my Pokemon. It ended up being a bit pricey, but it was definitely worth it so I could get the stats I want on my Pokemon. Shortly after I began EV training, I realized it'd be a lot quicker if I had another XP share, so I ended up going to the /vote shop and buying one from there, as I had accumulated enough votes in order to buy one. After that, I made my way back into /shop and bought one of each of the power items, as they greatly increase the speed at which you can train your EVs. I put the XP shares on Baneri and Swampert as I wanted them to gain attack EVs, and gave Dragonite the Power Bracer as I was using him first. After about 5 to 10 minutes of training, I had finally EV trained all of my Pokemon. I'd actually forgotten the last little bit of EVs on each of them, but they were still pretty good in my eyes. I immediately made my way over to the Move Tutor and Move Relearners so that I could begin teaching my Pokemon moves that they would have for their final sets. I really needed this, as some of my Pokemon's moves were pretty terrible. Feeling confident in my team, I decided to give the Battle Tower a shot. A Battle Tower is just like in the Pokemon Emerald game, where you can go and fight trainers with 3 of your Pokemon versus 3 of their Pokemon, and if you win, you get BP in order to buy things from the shop. For my team, I chose Swampert, Dragonite, and Articuno. I thought that they had great typings and move coverage in order to deal with the majority of the Pokemon that awaited me inside the Battle Tower. The first battle was pretty easy for me, although I did end up getting some pretty good luck on my opponent. After seeing how easily I defeated this opponent, I decided to continue my run on the Battle Tower, as I was sure I could take on the following rooms. Although I was very confident heading into this battle, it soon became clear to me that my Pokemon were just not up to par with the Pokemon of the Battle Tower. I was quickly defeated and had to make my leave. After my defeat, I decided to head on over to the boss towers to see if there were any good items that I could get from the bosses that would help my Pokemon in battle. As soon as I entered the room, I was greeted with a ton of loot on the floor. I thought it was my lucky day and that I could get some easy items here to either sell or use my Pokemon, but for whatever reason, I couldn't pick up any of them. As soon as I began the fight with the Ninetales, it became pretty clear to me that my Pokemon were definitely underleveled for this. So, after beating this boss and a couple more, I head on over to the route to continue leveling up my Pokemon. After defeating my very first trainer on this part of the route, my Baneri began evolving into Lopunny. This made me really excited, as it meant my team was finally actually complete, with all Pokemon being evolved and finalized on the team. After a long and grueling few days of battling trainers on the route, I had finally made my way to the third town, Arendelle. I took a look around at the town, and the visuals and beauty of it were really impressive to me. After healing up, I headed on over to the gym, where I thought I would have a rather easy fight, so I led with my Charizard just as I did in the Bug Gym. I was quickly disappointed, however, because it took out one Pokemon before it got absolutely destroyed. Despite me thinking that this gym was going to be a walk in the park, it turned out to be the most difficult one so far. I ended up losing 5 of my Pokemon before Splashy ended up clutching up the whole gym for us, saving us from needing to wait a whole day before we rebattled the gym. After beating the gym, I headed on home, placed the badge in the chest, and immediately got to defeating Pokemon, as I heard there was a special event going on where I could get keys from Pokemon that would give me special textured Valentine's Pokemon. After farming around my base for a while, I collected a total of 7 Adore Crate keys, and immediately headed on over to the crates to open them and see what I would get. I decided to open all of my crates at the same time, and I actually ended up getting some pretty good rewards out of them. I got a Rapidash, a Sableye, a Vulpix, rare candies, more rare candies, even more rare candies, a legendary Shaman, and Love Disc. I was so happy with the rewards from my Adore Crate keys that I decided to go hunt some more Pokemon at night. And while I was out hunting, I found something that I didn't expect. A Mega Lopunny. If I defeated this, I could get a Mega Stone for my very own Lopunny and get a Mega Bracelet for myself. As you can see, this was no ordinary battle, however. The Lopunny was level 100 and nothing on my team was even close to that. But I did manage to edge out a victory and get myself my very first Mega Stone. I also ended up getting a Mega Bracelet, which I equipped so that I could go look fly as hell with my Fez, Sash, and Bracelet all equipped. After getting the Mega Stone, I decided to open up the Texture Crate in the hopes that I could get a Texture Convert for my Lopunny. And surprisingly, it actually worked, and I did end up getting a Texture Convert. After getting the texture convert, I immediately use it on my Lopunny to get myself the ruby textured Lopunny. I'm not biased at all, I'm just saying my wife made the texture and it's the best one in the pack. I mean, look at it. This thing is just beautiful and has a great attention to detail. After getting the power up for Lopunny, I decided that it was time to head back to the route and continue my adventure. I was making my way to the fourth and final gym for this video, the fighting gym. As I was defeating the trainers, I remembered that my login reward for the day was an XP all, which I had gotten for logging in for 20 consecutive days. So I equipped it and began leveling for all of my Pokemon while beating trainers. After resting up for a bit and healing my Pokemon, I made my way to the gym to begin the battle. I began the battle feeling pretty confident with my team and was quickly put in my place. Not too long into the battle, however, we got the dreaded waiting glitch and I was forced to restart completely. But I wasn't that mad because I was losing and life gave me a second chance. The second gym battle ended up going a lot better for me, with my Articuno and Charizard putting the whole team on their back and carrying us to a victory. After beating the fourth and final gym, I took the badge, made my way home, and placed it in the chest along with the other 3 badges that I had won. With my goal of beating the first 4 gyms completed, I decided it was time that I upped the ante and started farming bosses. I defeated a bunch of bosses so I could get items to sell to the shop and get some money. I used the /shop feature in order to sell them a lot more quickly than I could if I had just gone to an NPC. I didn't make a crazy amount of money for this, but I was gaining a lot of levels on my Pokemon, so I decided to keep farming these bosses until my team could reach level 100. It took me about an hour, but after that entire hour of grinding, I had a full level 100 team, complete with some help from the rare candies I had gotten from the Adore crates. The rare candies were really nice, as I really did not want to grind more for the last few levels on my Dragonite and Alakazam. After finally grinding my Pokemon out to level 100, I decided to head on over to Warp Moves, where I could teach my Pokemon moves that they had forgotten, as well as buy some TMs to teach them. I was doing this because I was about to engage my final battle on the server, the battle versus a player gym leader of the Water Gym. Getting all these moves did take quite a bit of money, but since I had grinded the route out, I didn't really have a problem paying for all of it. Now that I was finally done perfecting my team, I decided to challenge the strongest gym leader on the server, Brachu, who had a win record of 33-5, so I knew this was going to be a tough battle. I led off with my Articuno, who knew Freeze Dry, which was super effective against most, if not all, of his team. I immediately killed both the Pelipper and the Swampert before they could do much damage to me. I thought this was going to be an easy sweep for my Articuno, but unfortunately his Greninja flinched me and then became Ash Greninja. I did have my Dragonite with Extreme Speed to take care of it before it became a problem for me though. I eventually sent out my Charizard against his Azumarill, thinking it was just going to die and it would be useless in this battle since it was a fire Pokemon against a full water gym, but I got a lucky little flinch of my own and was able to defeat the Azumarill. The next matchup was my Alakazam versus his Toxapex, which I thought would be an easy win for me, but this thing tanked my hits easily and knocked me out right back without a problem. Luckily, I had Splashy in the back to easily take care of this thing, and then tank a hit from Cloyster and do a bit of damage to it back. But unfortunately, his Cloyster was able to kill me relatively easily. But now, it was the time we'd all been waiting for. Mega Lopunny was making its appearance, and going to easily win us the game with a nice little high jump kick to the Cloyster's face. With this battle completed, I had finally beaten the strongest gym leader on the server, and earned myself a beautiful looking Galaxy Swampert. That's all for this video. Take care, everybody.